The Dunning-Kruger effect has become something of a meme by now, but it originally came out in around 1999. A couple of psychologists from Cornell University, Dunning and Kruger, they decided to study the brazenness of incompetence. Actually, they heard a story about a bank robber who smeared lemon juice on his face because he thought it would make him invisible. Obviously, it didn't work. He got caught. But he remembered as a kid hearing that lemon juice would make disappearing ink. So he thought if you put lemon juice on his face, he wouldn't be seen. He was very confident that that would work. So they actually did a study testing abilities in language and in humor and in problem solving. And they found out that people who were the worst at these skills actually assessed themselves as being the most competent. And ironically, the people who were actually above average in these areas had very low self-confidence in these areas. The Dunning-Kruger effect obviously is something that, as a society, has a big influence on the direction that we're heading. But I want to speak about it more in the microcosm, in the personal sense of how the Dunning-Kruger effect could actually be affecting you and me personally, internally, within ourselves, meaning our own ignorance. There's a Russian phrase, which is something of an idiom in Hasidic circles, and it's "Ya sam sapozhnik," which literally means "I myself am a shoemaker." And what does this mean? The story is that in the times of the Tsar in Russia, there were often pogroms, where the Cossacks would make raids on Jewish villages and they would pillage and steal. And afterwards, the Jews would try to find out who stole their articles and buy them back. So one day, a Jew went into a non-Jewish shoemaker's shop, and he happened to notice a pair of tefillin, the leather boxes that Jewish men wear on their head and on their arm during prayer. It didn't really belong there in a non-Jewish shoemaker's work table. So the Jew understood it was stolen, and he said, "How much for that?" He pointed at the tefillin. And the non-Jewish shoemaker told him an exorbitant amount, hundreds of ruble. And the Jew said, "How could you charge so much for something that doesn't even belong to you?" And the non-Jewish shoemaker became indignant, and he said, "Oh, how dare you say that it's not mine? Yes, I'm sapozhnik. I'm a shoemaker." It's not a hilarious punchline, but the joke is that the shoemaker actually thought that these leather boxes were some type of leather for shoes. So he thought it made sense being there at a cobbler's shop. The point is, the punchline, "Ya sam sapozhnik," has become an idiom in Hasidic circles. When you want to describe somebody who is being very brazen in their lack of knowledge and is just shouting in a very confident way something that is totally absurd. Now, I want to tell you something ironic. I went on the OpenAI chat GPT, is that what it's called? And I asked it if it knows what "Ya sam sapozhnik" means. So it translated it, actually knows a bunch of languages, and says, "I'm a shoemaker." So I said, "Do you know the source of it?" And so I didn't understand what that question meant. I said, "Well, it's from a story. Do you know the story?" So it said, "Sure." And it told me a story about some shoemaker who somebody asked, "Can you make me some shoes?" And he said, "Sure, I'll make you some shoes. Yes, I'm sapozhnik. I'm a shoemaker." And I said to the ChatGPT, I said, "Do you realize that you just embodied Yes, I'm sapozhnik? You made up the story with such confidence. You're like, sure, I'll tell you the story." That's not the story. That's not the Sam sapozhnik story. So he says, "I'm just a language model. What do you want from me?" Anyways, the point is for us to realize that we fall into this trap as well. And the only way out of it is through humility. The humility of getting perspective from someone else. As much as we know, even if we really do know, we need objectivity, and that's only possible by asking for someone else's perspective, somebody who has the distinct advantage of not being us. So when we are trying to grow spiritually, it is impossible to do it alone. If we try to do it alone and we only have our own echo chamber to listen to, then we are going to be some sapozhnik, and we will fall victim to our own internal Dunning-Kruger effect. We have to break out of that. We have to look for teachers and mentors and people who can give us objectivity.